response, your thoughts on that, and furthermore, do you think the American taxpayer is comfortable with roughly 2 million federal employees, up to 2 million, sitting at home doing nothing for 8 months while on a payment?
Yeah, they've been right. Of course, they're not comfortable with it. Drastic times call for drastic measures, and they've been doing this for 4 years under the Biden administration. They had full license, apparently, to not come to work. And it's a terrible frustration for us and for the American people. And because of civil service laws, that's what people have to understand, this is not like a private company. It should be that way, but it's not. The new president can't come in and just walk into an agency and say, you're all fired, which that'd probably be appropriate in some of these places, but he's not allowed to do that under the law. And so the president is thinking outside the box. His team is thinking outside the box. Well, how can we address this problem if we can't fire people for lack of showing up for work? Well, let's give them the option to take a parachute, We don't like that, but it's better than the alternative of having people not work and stay on the payroll. So they estimate that maybe 5 to 10% of the federal workforce will take their golden parachute. They'll be paid through September, I think is the proposal, and maybe they leave the workforce. Fantastic. I hope they do. But
that's Speaker of the House Mike Johnson smearing the 2 million civil servants who swear an oath to the Constitution when they get their jobs and doing the hard work that needs to be done to maintain our government, from taking care of our veterans with their health care to helping our military, running the bases and logistics that keep our military running, to ensuring that people have safe housing, to everything in between you can imagine. But you know what? Republicans don't actually like people who do their goddamn jobs. So Mike Johnson stands there with this smarmy face with this ridiculous lie that they've been staying home when they haven't. It's all a lie. And what he's referring to is a ridiculous idea that came out this week where they actually used a memo that came out with the actual same headline, a fork in the road, that Elon Musk used at Twitter to get rid of his employees. And the idea they're floating is to civil servants saying, hey, you could take an early retirement or an early resignation and you won't have to do the work order where they're making them come to work until September. It's not actually a buyout. They're trying to sell it like it's a buyout. It's not a buyout. Otherwise, that guy would have had to pass a law with extra money to pay up front. No, what they're saying is, hey, look, you can hang out at home, keep working, but we'll pay you till then. There is no buyout. And the key point of all of this is this came from OMB, the DOGE guys, which we'll talk a lot about today. And it's the exact same thing Musk did at Twitter. But you know what happened to Twitter? Most of those employees that took those buyouts never got paid. And there's no plan. They spent a good part of their week, OPM, the Office of Management, OMB, Office of Management Budget, building the database that could email every single government employee on themselves. This has never been done before. They don't actually own all the civil servants, but they want to. And they emailed all of them this ridiculous thing. And I tell you, nobody's buying it. But this is really the hallmark of this first week and a half of the Trump administration, this chaos, just throwing stuff at the wall. And then what you see, I wanted to show you that smarmy guy himself, Mike Johnson, his congressional Republicans, is they've just laid over. They have laid over as this ridiculous memo came out, basically freezing all government functions, all government spending in direct violation of the Constitution, direct violation of the Impoundment Act, which is a direct fight with Congress's power. And look how Congress handles it. It's the president. It's all good. And look, all of this was the plan. They brought in Musk. They brought in himself, Timu himself. Okay, Timo Nosferatu, what do you want to call him? I'm even losing my own jokes today. Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller has been going on there. And they wanted to shock and awe the American people. They wanted to overwhelm us with their big ideas and their EOs. And it's worked a little bit. Look how Stephen Miller is handling himself. This was about the funding cut. And Jake Tapper has asked about, do you really want to cut Meals on Wheels? Is that woke? Is it woke to feed elderly people at home?
How long is this review going to take? And when does the federal funding for these programs resume?
Well, in the original executive order that addressed NGOs, foreign aid, and other grants, that was a 90-day review process, as you know, Jake. But again, more fundamentally, I think we're missing the big point here. Do you believe, does anyone believe, that an unaccountable, career-tenured bureaucrat should be able to approve vast sums of money for the projects that they personally agree with, that no accountable employee in the federal government has reviewed.
I'm literally asking about Meals on Wheels. I mean, you know,
we are.
I don't know what you're talking
Jake, yes,
about.
Jake, you do know what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, as the memo says, in black and white letters, no financial benefit programs to Americans are affected. No individual assistance programs are affected. It's there in black and white.
Yeah.
We always knew that the media was going to spin up fake stories to try to create controversy, to try to create scandal. I'm not saying you, Jake. I would never say you. I'm not saying you.
We invited you on to clarify, Stephen, and we just heard
and
from
I'm
Republican
here.
Right,
And
I know, and I
all-
appreciate it.
all-
And I want to turn to
I'm
integration in one
explaining it
second,
to
but
you.
I'm just saying, Republican Congressman Don Bacon was hearing from constituents. We have no idea where the constituents were getting their information was from. But I will say, last night, when people started noticing this order, people were upset based on the executive order. I was hearing from them directly.
The executive order, Jake, the executive order was issued 7 days ago.
I understand that, but it was going when the word got out.
This is an OMB guidance document.
Right, exactly.
Look,
And when that went out, people got it. Yes. And you heard Congressman Don Bacon saying he was worried.
Yes.
Now he's not, but he was worried that before school programs and after school programs in Nebraska were going to be affected.
I am sorry.
But you've clarified
I'm sorry that the media has falsely reported on this story.
I don't know what you're talking about in terms of false reports.
Look,
it's a broadly written executive order, and there's
you're conflating two different things.
Stephen,
an executive order was issued a week ago. There were some.
And then there was the
memo. Oh, I can't take any more of that. But the point is, they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay, the fact is, Office of Management and Budget (OMB) put out a memo saying that federal funds were frozen, that programs were frozen. They only said the only thing that wouldn't be touched was personal payments, including Medicare and Social Security wouldn't be touched. But that's all they named. And yeah, people freaked out because there was questions where if veterans programs would be paid, whether Meals on Wheels would be. There's a lot of people freaked out. People didn't think they're going to get paid anymore because that's literally what the memo said. And no matter how much that bald weirdo says otherwise, it's literally the word for word document. And he's trying to blame the media. He's trying to blame everybody, but their massive freaking incompetence and inability to govern in like fucking adults. That's Stephen Miller. You know, but from day one, there's been groups pushing back. And from day one, I mean, literally, and we'll talk, I'm so excited to have the guests we have coming up, that they literally have been fighting, but they had a plan. This is from day one, they decided to sue for the existence of DOGE, this ridiculous Department of Government Efficiency, which isn't a department. And by any definition, it's probably an advisory board. But I wanted you to see this. Here's a great interview with one of the co-defendants suing the U.S. government the day that Donald Trump got sworn in.
We sued over this new thing, which is really an advisory committee called DOGE. It's not a government department, to force it to comply with the law. Advisory committees have to follow certain procedures under federal law. They have to have balanced representation. They have to have open meetings, have a charter, be subject to open records law, and so on. There's no sign that this DOGE is doing any of those things. The term DOGE refers to a meme coin, a cryptocurrency that Elon Musk is a fan of. So it's a little bit of a joke, but the joke's on all of us. What DOGE is about is empowering Elon Musk, the world's richest human being, to make recommendations and really drive policymaking in the Trump administration to roll back regulations, the rules that give us clean air, clean water, safe food, fair workplaces, and more, to benefit corporations, and to drive a libertarian extremist agenda of cutting government spending, primarily on programs to help the poor and vulnerable, including nutrition assistance and Medicaid.
Yeah. That's Public Citizen, one of the many groups that sued on behalf of Americans against this clearly illegal organization that is making real decisions. How much, they're making decisions. The story came out about some of the members, and they're all from Twitter, Musk's company. So literally Elon Musk brought his favorite people from his many companies to try and take over our government. For comparison, the people he bought Twitter from, he spent $44 billion to buy Twitter. It's now estimated to be worth a whopping $9 billion. And by you guys, But I don't want some asshole who drove the price of his biggest company down to from 44 billion to 9 billion to actually run the government. I mean, maybe we shouldn't run the government like a freaking company when you've got idiots like that trying to run it. That on top of the president with multiple bankruptcies. So we got a lot to talk about that. I'm very excited to talk with Democracy Forward's president and CEO, and we're going to get to that right now. So again, I am Fred Wellman, right here on the On Democracy Network, a channel, On Democracy with FP Wellman. Let's get on with the show. All right, welcome. I am Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy, FP Wellman. You're in the right place on the On Democracy channel or MeidasTouch, wherever you find us. If you're listening to us on Apple, thank you for being a part of the family. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all those good things. Man, it has been another crazy week in Washington. I say that every week, and it was this time. Trump and his band of extremists have tried to seize the government, overwhelm the opposition with a flood of executive orders and memos and directives and all those things. And in many ways, you could almost argue it's working in a lot of ways. They've been flooding a lot of folks. A lot of folks have kind of felt despondent, like we can't fight back. The media is spinning a little bit. Our friends on Congress are trying to spin. But the good news is we're starting to see cracks, right? We're starting to see cracks in their plan. We're starting to see the fact they're not quite as prepared as they think they were, and they made us think they were. And many groups, the reason is because many groups have been getting ready. They saw the onslaught coming. They put together plans. They created coalitions. They built partnerships. How often do you hear me talk about that in the show, about the way we're going to succeed is we work together. We don't isolate, we build. It's a game of math, and we add instead of subtract. So one of the biggest leaders of that movement and the success we've seen even recently is our friends at Democracy Forward. And the leader of them is our friend Skye Perryman. She is the president and CEO of Democracy Forward, which is a nonpartisan national legal organization that promotes democracy and progress through litigation, regulatory engagement, all of these things. You took the helm, Skye, right after January 6th, so it's just because some stuff was going on, I imagine. So we're thrilled to have you on the show. I know you're so busy and taking time for us. Welcome to On Democracy, and congratulations on looks like an early victory already, right?
Thanks for having me. I mean, we've been in court all week, and we'll see. The White House press secretary is saying a lot of different things. I think she's tweeting right now. So we'll see what all this is. But we certainly did have a good victory yesterday, where we were able to get a court to pause the funding freeze that the White House had put into effect that was really depriving millions of people of essential services across the country. So we'll see what today brings on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just chaos for 24 hours there. We're recording this on Wednesday because that's when you had time for me. But I mean, there was a whole day of chaos there and insanity. You guys went right to court very quickly and got a restraining order even before it went into effect, didn't you?
Yeah, we went right into court with the National Council of Nonprofits, the American Public Health Association, Main Street Alliance, which represents small businesses across the country, and an organization called SAGE, to ensure that people could be able to receive what they need in terms of essential services. The court yesterday issued what's called an administrative stay of the executive action that would have frozen all of these programs. And that, I think, was a sigh of relief for people. Today, they've come out and said they're rescinding the overall memo, but now they're, just as we were getting on this podcast, it seems like that they're backtracking on some of these things. So we will continue to show them and hold them accountable in court, and so that the American people have what they need.
And let's circle back to where it all started, right? You guys didn't, a lot of folks sort of jumped into action. I mean, a lot of folks were getting ready, but you guys didn't wait till the election, did you? You've been working and preparing for a bit of time. I understand you've been working for 2 years to build your coalitions, prepare. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, you didn't just wait to the last minute. You worst case scenario this from the start, didn't you?
Well, Democracy Forward brought a number of cases against the last Trump administration for extreme and unlawful activity. We bring cases in courts across the country when extremists seek to undermine rights at the state and local levels as well. And then we do a lot of also forward-leaning work to help communities build the future that they want and that they deserve. Right. We knew that if the executive branch, if the president was going to be in the image of either Donald Trump or the kind of very MAGA extreme image, that there would be a risk that a whole lot of people's rights would get violated, because that's what we saw the last time. And so we started tracking what that would look like to make sure that there would be legal representation and resources for people who are getting hurt. And then this document called Project 2025 was published out of the Heritage Foundation. Right. And I think this was a wonky document that they published to try to sort of get their own house in order and their own coalition in order. But we were able to really expose that. And we issued a People's Guide to Project 2025, which millions of Americans have accessed and viewed, to show people exactly what was going on. Of course, that worked in that throughout the election, Trump couldn't even talk about Project 2025. He had to disavow it because it's so unpopular with conservatives, liberals, and independents. But then now he's seeking to accelerate that agenda. And we have been giving thought for some time, along with others, on how we could ensure that if people's rights are being violated as a result of that agenda, that they have representation in court. And so that's what we're doing. We filed a few lawsuits already, and then to really protect essential services for people.
Now, you didn't do this. You started looking at those policies and finding the right partners ahead of time, didn't you? I mean, we could just the recent law case you partnered with Quaker organizations, right? You got the idea that ICE could invade houses of worship. That wasn't formed overnight, was it? You guys had sort of had those partners already, didn't you?
Well, you know, we are we get partners all the time and get to have the honor of working with communities across the country. And some of those communities are ones we've worked with for some time. Some of them are new when policies sort of affect them. On the ICE case that we filed, which I just want to make sure people are following, and I know you've talked about it, but, you know, for 30 years, it's been very clear, and the policy of the federal government under Republican administrations, Democratic administrations, is that ICE doesn't conduct enforcement operations in sensitive locations, including in houses of worship or in religious ceremonies like funerals or weddings. And this administration really, with a stroke of a pen, rescinded that policy. And it's very harmful. It violates the First Amendment, what they've done. It violates a range of other federal laws, too. And we're going to court. We knew, based on some reporting that came out, that this was something that they might seek to do, and of course had thought through. I mean, it would just be such a blatant violation of the law, but that never really stops them. And so we're really pleased to be in this case in the District of Maryland, federal court in Maryland, with a range of Quaker communities, and we really look forward to trying to get some relief for our clients and for religious communities across the country who are in fear and are, you know, being inhibited by the fact that, you know, their church could be overtaken with a governmental enforcement operation.
Which is a terrifying thought, and they're already trying to push these two. But you didn't wait. I mean, on day one, the minute he I almost said the minute he put his hand in the Bible, but he kind of skipped that part. You know, he didn't really put his hand in the Bible. But when he was supposed to put his hand in the Bible, you guys and a large coalition, includes our friends with VoteVets and others, you sued against DOGE, right, from the very beginning.
Day one, because DOGE was really operating and had been operating within the federal government without complying with basic transparency laws that ensure the American people aren't shut out of government, that ensure that you get to know what the government is up to. And, you know, we really represent people that have skin in the game. I mean, we're representing teachers in that case, veterans, lots of communities that are really concerned about this special interest influence without transparency, you know, without transparency.
Right. And we're seeing it already. I mean, the memos coming out of there and the OMB have got Heritage Project on them. And we've, you know, stories have come out already that some of the, I mean, I believe one of the news stories came out. They didn't want to name one of the people working at DOGE because he's actually underage. I mean, that we should know who our government employees are, right? I mean, it is beyond ridiculous that they don't. Do they already have an office in the Eisenhower Executive Building too?
That's what the reporting would suggest, and we're going to find out a lot from our lawsuit.
I mean, it's insane. For those of us who have worked in Washington, like I have, the idea that someone who really has no access, shouldn't be there by law, is parading around the hotbed of our government is kind of scary. And you've also were fighting for the civil service. You know, from day one they started issuing memos and kind of putting striking fear in the 2 million civil servants who dedicate their lives to our country. And you sued along that one as well, haven't you, for civil service?
We filed 2 cases on Schedule F, which is trying to decimate our independent civil service, make them And we've launched a wonderful project that so many organizations are working on called Civil Service Strong. And your listeners can go to civilservicestrong.org, where public servants or people that just want to support our public servants, the people who, have giving their lives and careers to serving the American people, where they can go and get resources. So that's Civil Service Strong, and we've brought in some great staff, including the former acting director of the Office of Personnel Management, is here to support civil servants as part of that project.
Wow, and that's a big project, and we're seeing more and more. I mean, I'm sure you guys are shocked by this idea they're going to try and quit early. I mean, can you talk to us a little bit about? Have you guys looked at this idea, that the early out package they're calling it? Early retirement. It's none of those things, is it?
We saw that today. I mean, the bottom line is this is an administration that has come in, and they're not seeking to really represent and work for the American people. Who comes into office when you've been elected to represent and work for the American people? That's a sacred office. Who comes in and says, we're going to go with shock and awe? Like, what does that even mean? Against your own people? You're going to shock and awe your own people? And then who goes and looks at civil servants that have dedicated their careers to making sure the government works for people? I mean, the reason that we get to eat food and know what's in that food and understand that our medications are safe and effective for use and have public safety across the country in many instances is because of our federal civil service, and because that federal civil service is powered by people who swear an oath to the Constitution and to the American people and not to any political agenda. And they want to take a wrecking ball to that and replace those people with partisan and ideological loyalists who do not have our national community in mind, but instead have their own private interest in mind. So we are going to push hard on meeting those attempts with legal challenges when it's appropriate, with support for civil servants and other resources when it's appropriate, and with anything we can do to make sure that people understand that, like, these are folks that are dedicating their lives to serving us. And they, we need to make sure that they're not being ousted by an administration that really seems to not have an interest in serving the American people.
Well, and attacks them in stupid ways, and the propaganda that goes with it. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing, because I know you've been talking about this for a while, but sort of the propaganda that goes with it. Smearing these people with the lies about the condoms going to Gaza to make it sound like these are out of control bureaucrats, when you and I know that they're professionals, there's systems in place, everything's approved, they follow the law, they follow the budget from Congress. There's a lot of really ugly propaganda attacking these same professional people, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is an administration that, we're 8-9 days in. It looks like that they're going to wheel and deal in misinformation, which is what they did the last time. It's what they did on the campaign trail. I mean, these are people that don't even acknowledge the results of the 2020 election. And you're seeing that play out. And the problem with it is there's a lot of sort of theoretical and academic issues with that. And it doesn't really sit well with people. But the real problem is that it's hurting people, because misinformation and disinformation is preventing our government from being able to work and deliver for people, is scaring people, is sowing chaos, is seeking to redefine reality for millions of Americans. And we are committed at Democracy Forward to pushing back against that, but also to really empowering people to use their own power to be part of this work.
And that's a great place to go, because I talked about this a lot.
I was trying to.
There you go. You cut to the chase. I love that. I constantly, and everybody watch the show knows, I constantly, how can you get involved? How can you be a part of that? And as prepared for our show and our conversation, I was talking to your team. 208 or how many groups are in your the Democracy 2025?
50, yeah.
Yeah, and so you've got a lot of folks who've stepped up and can join. How can average Americans be a part of that? Is it smart for them to join one of your partners to be a part of it? How can those who want to push back against this? And I'm not a big resistance guy, but kind of what it is, right? How do we resist this?
I think it's really more. It's people that want a future, a present, and a future.
Yeah.
That represents the best of us, and we welcome everybody to that. So there's a lot of ways that people can get involved and can be part of this. And we need everybody. It's not just lawyers, it's not just politics. We need everybody. So number one, and you're putting it on your ticker here, but if you follow Democracy Forward online and sign up for our newsletter, we do not spam people. We're sending out good information. And then you can learn about some of our other projects. Democracy 2025, which you can go to democracy2025.org. Democracy 2025 is a website that we have created that has information about executive actions that are being taken, how responses are going. You can sign up for updates. There will be calls to action as there are things to do.
Okay.
We also want people and communities in this country to demand more for themselves and for their loved ones and for their communities of their government. And what that means is writing letters, calling, getting in touch with your members of Congress. Did you vote for your member of Congress or not? It doesn't matter. They represent you. They work for you. You should get on the phone and call them. You get on the phone and call a service provider when they're not delivering what you need. You need to get on the phone and call elected representatives, use your voice in your community, and be part of our work. And we'll have lots of opportunities for people to come together. The thing that I've been really emphasizing, I think you really embody this with the folks that you have on and with the community of listeners that you have, is what this administration wants you to think, what far right movements want you to think, is that there's nothing that you can do, that you're alone and isolated, and that you should just kind of pack up and go home because there's no way to change what is happening. And this country is a country that has always been on a path of changing and becoming better and pushing back against injustice. And the victories that we've had for people and communities in this country have been because people, not politicians, people realized their own power and found ways to be part of creating something better. And so we just want to make sure that people are also feel there is a community for you. You provide that to your listeners. We are seeking to provide that with our community at Democracy Forward. There is a community for you. We're in it together. We're not going to get out of the next 4 years in any other way but getting through it, but we can get through it together. And we're going to make sure you have some good lawyers. So when these people start, discontinuing essential services, that there's a fight. And that there's a fight in court and that we can defend people. And we've done it for successfully, and we're going to continue to do it.
Well, that's perfect. And that's exactly it. I'm lucky. I've got good lawyers backing me up too. and it's the key. I mean, it matters so much, and it gives so many the ability to stand up and know that they can use their voice. And if there is retribution, there are pushback, that we're going to have a coalition that's going to back them up. So, well, I really appreciate that. I mean, I was thrilled when I heard about this before you guys were able to do this, and I'm thrilled to get you on the show and talk about it.
It's great to be here. We're happy to come back, and some of my colleagues would too. So thank you so much.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us, and good luck. Get back to work. I know you got to run. Keep us up to date.
Thanks so much. All right, bye-bye.
Bye now. I've been using Viia hemp's gummies to help me relax, unwind after a long day, ease into relaxing evening, and boost my mood when things are a little crazy around here. On days when I have a lot of production, I love chewing a flow state gummy to help elevate my focus and get into my work, and it helps a lot. So it's been very helpful. As you know, I've been working on my health this month. It's dry January. What better place than try a hemp product for the first time? And look, I've got a crazy busy life. Okay, I've really enjoyed exploring these natural hemp products from Viia. Now, unlock the power of nature if you use with Viia's organic and vegan hemp extracts. They're perfect for relaxation and rejuvenation. Viia is the only lifestyle hemp brand, and they use compounds found in hemp along with active plant extracts to create products, each with a specific effect in mind. As I mentioned, whether you want to get better sleep, or you want to ease anxiety, or enhance your mood, or just, feel better and elevate your moods, they have something for you. Now, with over 500,000 happy customers, they're carving out a real niche, and I love that it's made with natural ingredients. So if you're looking for a way to elevate your wellness routine, try Viia hemp. That's http viia.co/Fred. And all you got to use is use code Fred, and you'll find me. So again, try viia.co/Fred. Thanks, Viia, for sponsoring our show. We really appreciate it. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guides to improve your nutrition workout, sleep, and even your stress management. Not that I have stress in my life. Now, all you have to do is breathe in your Lumen first thing in the morning. You'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe in before you go on your workouts, before you go for a meal. You know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So look, your metabolism is your body's engine. We all know this. You probably learned this in health class, right? It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. I've been tracking macros and nutrients and nutrition for years as I try to maintain my health as I age. Because your metabolism is the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, better moods even, if you will. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health right in your hand. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Fred. You'll get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Fred for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring our show this week. We really appreciate you. And man, it's a great device. What a great conversation. A quick conversation, literally between lawsuits, between cases. She was able to get on, and man, I just really appreciate it. It's a timely thing. You saw that democracy2025.org. There's a lot of groups on there. I think it was 180 last count. They're part of this coalition. You can join those groups, and you heard her. Use your voice. And I want to kind of go out with that, you guys. Look, if you read our Substack, I can put it up here. We have a Substack, and I love my Substack, and I hope you do too. If you go to our Substack, I recently wrote a piece about how Timothy Snyder always says in his book that on tyranny, do not obey in advance. And people have taken that to heart. But I also think we shouldn't believe in advance. And you may have heard this on the show already, but I want to close out because it's so key with what we just talked about, okay? Don't believe in advance. And I say this now because right before we went to record today, they rescinded the OMB memo that scared the living hell out of everybody for 24 hours about funding being cut and others. At the same time, Marco Rubio has rolled back most of the cuts to foreign aid because people are starving. I don't know if you heard about that, but they literally put out a memo where they cut all foreign aid, all of it. Paused it like they did at OMB. But that also meant, get this, the guards guarding ISIS prisoners in Syria or running the refugee camp that their families are in, they literally stopped paying the guards without knowing that. They just came in on day one, wrote a fucking memo, issued it without any understanding of the repercussions and the second and third order effects of these things. You hear me talk about that term a lot, right? And so now Rubio is in there. Secretary Rubio is rolling his back saying, no, we didn't really mean that. And my point of this is they wanted us scared. All right. You saw at the beginning of the show, Stephen Miller, I call him Timu Nosferatu. Okay. They want you to believe Mr. Ketamine and Elon wants you to believe that they're all powerful. They have a plan. Democracy's done. They want you to believe that, right? That they're gonna emplace their people and they're gonna take over the government. And I saw people who work for the government scared. I see so many of you guys in the comments and on my social media channels saying, "Oh, we're done, Fred." Look, we are not done. Okay, do not believe them. They want you to believe them. Do not believe in advance until they prove they're competent. Don't believe them. That memo was trash. And it got thrown out. It may come back in a different form. Some reminded me on Blue Sky today that if you remember, the Muslim ban took several iterations. First iteration was thrown out completely and blocked by the courts. Second iteration was blocked by the courts, but the third one went through. But it was much watered down. I would expect we'll see the same kind of stupidity. This time, they'll issue a stupid memo, see who squawks, see what the courts say. And they're testing the waters, if you will. I don't know. But they want you to think it's inevitable. They want you to think it's going to win. They overwhelmed us early. Their own people, by the way, American people, put fear into American people because they wanted you to be afraid. And I think if you're almost 2 weeks now, here we are with Friday night, Thursday, I can tell you, don't be afraid. They're full of shit, guys. I'm not afraid of Stephen Miller. Are you kidding me? Who should be afraid of Stephen Miller? Okay. They release those prisoners. They want them. We want us scared of them too. I'm not going to do it. And you shouldn't do it either. Okay. Don't believe in advance. Believe what you see with your own two eyes. And what you see with your own two eyes is groups like Democracy Forward, our friends at Vote Vets, all those folks, ACLU, I mean, a million of them stepping up. You saw an interview with one of them at the beginning, stepping up and fighting for us. You see judges stepping up. My God, the 14th Amendment one, where they try to get rid of birthright citizenship, the federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan, who sat in the bench for 40 years in Washington State, didn't even let the government lawyer get through his first sentence of his argument before he cut him off, said, who wrote the memo? Like, what lawyer wrote this ridiculous executive order that's in clear violation of the United States Constitution? He said, I want that lawyer here. And then he put a temporary restraining order on it right away. So the judges are doing their jobs. The courts will do their job. I know you're afraid of the Supreme Court and all. Don't be, okay? We have to stand strong, okay? Don't, my fiance is Dutch, and she was raised by hardcore Nebraska farmers. And, Midwest, I'm a Midwesterner. You guys get stuck with Midwestern, stuff. But was one of her favorite sayings she was raised on by her parents is, don't worry too soon. All right? Worry later. And the point being, if you're spending all your time worrying, if you're spending all your time scared, if you're spending all your time withholding your voice because you're afraid, because you're worried about something that hasn't occurred yet, then you're worrying too soon. So worry later. Let's fight now. Use your voice, contact your members of Congress, join groups like Democracy Forward and us, and we can fight back. Use your voice, because your voice matters. If we learned anything in the last week with the OMB memo and the others, they still are listening to us, whether they want to admit it or not. They are listening, and we can call them out. So with that, I thank you guys for joining us this great edition. As you can see, I'm on the road this week at undisclosed location, but I'm out on the road trying to talk to you guys. In the meantime, make sure, if you like the show, as I mentioned at the top, make sure you go to the On Democracy channel on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to us there. We put all new content there, separate from our wonderful work we do with our friends at MeidasTouch. Catch our new Sunday show every Sunday on Democracy Sunday, getting better and better. We had over 4,000 people join us last week. Amazing. So go to On Democracy channel and subscribe. If you love getting your podcast the proper audio way, we're on Apple, Spotify, and elsewhere. Thank you to our sponsors this week. Again, be sure to leave a comment, reply, a like, share this with your friends. In the meantime, thanks for being part of this. I can't tell you enough. We are in the fight. You are in the fight. Stay in the fight. And I'll see you guys soon.